kind of just jumped over.
Yeah.
So I guess there is some back. Yeah. There we go. Bring those back. You were there for the lake, right? Yeah. That's like a background or something, right? Like a traffic outside. Yeah. No, it's kind of like no, it's kind of like it's a weird rolling motion. It's not like this. It's a weird. It's like whoa. What if you fall out of this? Everything's falling off the shelves. And I have no LA. Yeah. Yeah, we'll be looking at before, but not as big as the one that.
You know that they all like it.
It's shifted.
No, even the people that like talk to personally one-on-one for one thing. They desperately want to get cut. So that you want to and then you military. There's always the military. Not as people.
No, it's one of those things that no clue where you're on that. So it's kind of,
Well,
yeah, you're right.
you have to be yeah. But you know, everything
It's like a 95. 95. Yeah.
You ever seen the movies this guy did?
Is that
Some
of the other?
I've seen him so that was good. But I remember when it came out, I didn't see it. Just film it. That was good.
Oh, yeah. That's sure. Yeah, right.
That's in here? Yeah. For what? For private students? Still in business? Well, I graduated and left. I don't know if it's just good old 30-second ad. One of those things? He had used it fine. Are you still at Columbia? Theaters? Or I don't know. Rico Tan. Carmike Tan. Carmike. They switched to digital a few years ago, and so basically the movies are on hard drive, and the program starts automatically. You push the button to play. Really, that easy now? No rewinding, no setting up film. Like it, I'm trying to do this. So they made the big switch too. Yeah, I haven't been in there since that one opened. Well, I live 5 blocks from there. Why? They still show real comedy. Oh, I thought you said they switched over. I'm thinking it is real time film. I can tell they're filmed in there. Oh, yeah. Out of frame, out of focus. And you get your little lines. Everything I've been in there with is all good. Crystal clean.
How are you? Good. How you doing? Happy birthday too.
Oh, yeah?
I was right after mine.
And I wrote a book last year too.
So before you get through.
Help me buy it. Right back into the cause.
You go to.
Sure. Not.
And did Tommy tell you that,
You ever run into Wes? Ever see or hear of him?
Every now and then, he emails me whenever he gets something he wants me to promote behind the computer.
Yeah, so that's not a couple summers ago. Yeah, he did marry that. Well,
Yeah, they got married 2 years ago.
she's worth a lot. So he's sitting pretty. Then we shoot something at her house for money.
Yeah, we did. That was the TV.
Yeah. Yeah, so she had quite a few dollars. And she's still their number one. Prairie.
They are, they're survivors.
So that frees him up to do his stuff.
They're wonderful.
Then what?
If you like
Oh,
to
yeah,
hear-
dude.
He keeps wanting to do another feature, but never gets around to it.
well, I saw one of them.
Did he ever do his shortest movie ever?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see it?
I got it back.
How many edits? Oh,
Oh, there's lots, because, World War II guy, a guy who gets drafted.
They do, they're very, they're very funny and very.
Oh, is that a second?
I thoroughly enjoy being here.
30 edits?
Cost him like, $10,000. Well, he rented this, period for the bus and uniforms and guns. Hired their waterman to do this, edited.
Wow.
I
All
did.
he made his money back.
Well, he got, you don't get the real ending.
Yeah, I don't mean you didn't get your money back.
I don't think he ever sold it. He was selling it as a
Novelty.
yeah, bonus time or something. Nobody thought it was that.
Well, how many edits do you think he had in it? 30?
Well, let's see,
20? Shit. Yeah, I want to be playing it for 10 minutes. Can you visually that frame through it? You can do that? Have you?
Slow it down to 3 frames.
I love
You
it.
can still follow the story in 3.5 seconds. It's a good demonstration to show you can still tell a story, but not all these.
10, 20 edits in 7 seconds. 50 years ago, that was illegal.
Well, 1 second and 7 seconds.
Let's fill up these front seats here, so we don't have to turn on the microphones too loud.
Sit right here.
Hey everyone, thanks. What's up? How's it going?
Good.
How's school?
Well, I'm still enrolled.
You are good,
That's
right?
a big step there.
Senior?
Yep, graduated from my MBA.
Good for you. In what?
Master's of Business Administration.
And then what do you want to do?
Gonna go into, got a job leasing winter rights for oil.
You're in the state?
Yep, west side of the state.
Oh, great. That's oh, that's really hello. Maybe we don't need to turn these mics on. I think that actually do we? Better. I don't think that we do. But I mean, they might want to keep them on for the camera.
long you guys in town for?
Until Saturday.
Yeah, leaving Saturday afternoon. Tomorrow we're gonna go scouting. Gonna go to some great towns, so maybe during Q&A we can get everybody's feedback on where we should go. Rick is scouting for a couple of different films right now, so we're looking for locations, cities. Yeah.
We need to sort of blow up the town, so. Yeah, everybody.
Blow up a town that's gonna be flooded by devil's lake.
Right.
What kind of criteria are you looking for?
No, I'm not really looking at them, just sort of like, because I can get like monster, just look for something that, I was looking for things that are still period, like 1930s, 1950s, towns. When you live in LA, it's all new.
You just start driving, you'll find it.
You'll find it, right? Yeah.
Cheyenne.
How's everybody?
Nice.
Hey, everybody. Hi. Hello. Hi. Hello.
I think we're right. Are you gonna do anything?
Well, I'm ready.
Ladies in the back, you can certainly come up in the front. If anybody wants to sit up in the front row, we definitely have front row seating here.
They're handsome men, come forward.
We don't want you to heckle.
Good evening and welcome. I'm a Rude Center for Innovation here at the University of North Dakota. We certainly appreciate you coming out to our April Entrepreneur Forum. We have very, very special guests with us this evening who've flown all the way from California. But don't for a second think that they have no North Dakota roots, because actually, Mr. Brusso brought with us here tonight his dad. He's from the area and attended the University of North Dakota. And Mr. Dallago has also been in the area for another film that put North Dakota on the map, as it were, a few years ago. Can anybody guess what film that was? Fargo. Absolutely right. Now we're not going to
Only
see
for 2
anything
days.
from Fargo tonight,
Only for 2 days.
but it was enough that you wanted to come back.
I did. I did went back to that Norwegian pizza thing, the
Lavash.
lavage.
So we hope to have a very lively evening for you. We're going to have a
Tacos
presentation,
at the Red Pepper.
look at some film trailers from Mr. Dallago, and then we're going to have a lively conversation, I should hope. So please, if you would warmly welcome our guests, Ben Brusso and Rick Dallago.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, it's always nice to come back to Grand Forks and to see all these great familiar faces. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. It's a blast to have the opportunity to bring Rick back here this time around. We never got the chance to meet 15 years ago when he was here on set. What was your job for Fargo? Snow chaser?
Yeah, it was. But I only worked on it for 2 days, so I don't want to really talk about that movie.
No, we won't go into that too terribly much.
So I think what the school does here, which is interesting, is that, and I'm not involved in academia, so I don't know if other schools do this, but the concept of being an entrepreneur, I think, is really relevant, especially nowadays, with jobs being what they are and the economy being what it is. No job is really safe anymore. I think that I encourage everyone to pursue what they really love and what they dream about doing, because with layoffs and companies downsizing, and I think with the internet and the ability to create and to make a business happen without spending a lot of like capital nowadays to reach audiences and to niche an audience, that it's a great program you guys have here, and I think it's fantastic, and Bruce and everyone who runs it, incredibly inspiring. And I think that what I do for a living is an extension of what you guys do here. My father, for example, worked at Sears his entire life, and he hated it. A very stable job, he had a paycheck every week, and he encouraged all of us to pursue the arts. And I didn't have anybody in my family who was involved in film at all. And when I was just very young, I always liked it. And I decided when I was senior in high school to pursue film production, and I applied to NYU, and I got into the film school there, and went to school. And when I graduated, I came out and I was a gopher for films, and I worked on The World According to Garp and some films in the early 80s as a coffee goer, but started at the very, very bottom and just worked hard and never gave up. So I think we saw this expression today: work hard and be lucky, or something. That
The harder I work, the luckier I get.
right, the harder I work, the luckier that I get. That which is applicable, I think, to making a living for today. And
Well, let's just let's
Yeah.
kind of go into that. Let's talk, I guess, first of all, about maybe some of the people in your film career. You know, starting from the beginning as a copy getter, as a production assistant. That was your first job would be PA, a production assistant.
Right.
You know, who are the first people that influenced you?
I remember that I was working on a film with Brian De Palma, who was a film director, and when he walked in the office one day, he said, "Hi, Rick," and he knew my name, and that was really, to me, it was an important lesson that taught me when I became a producer to value everyone's contribution. Because when you work on a movie, there's 200 people, and each person does a different job. And if it's not, and if somebody's not there or that position isn't filled, then it doesn't operate. And if you ever saw a film being shot, you say no one's doing anything; they're all just kind of standing around. But everyone's there for a specific reason, and to value everyone's contribution, I think, is important. You know, and especially as a leader, there were certain lessons that I learned when I was on the other end, at the bottom of the pole, that trained me to respect everyone that's involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Warren Beatty was another person that I worked for about a year. I worked on this film Ishtar with Warren Beatty. He was very he was appreciative of everyone that was part of the process also, and knew everyone's name and made it a point to say hi to everyone. And I think that that's important, to make everyone feel that they are a part of a larger scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Excellent.
Yeah.
At what point did you feel like you got your big break? Was there a turning point in your career where you finally kind of got out of the assistant role? And I mean, how does that break down? And just for people that don't know the film industry, that don't know some of the different jobs that you would have in a modern film, where do you go after you're a runner or a production assistant?
What happens normally, everything is economically rooted, and what will happen is that a film will not have enough money to hire somebody with a lot of experience in a certain role, so they have to hire somebody with less experience but pay less, and that's kind of what happens. So you get your break. What happened was I was working, and they asked me if I wanted to become a location scout, which is the person who goes around and you would find the locations for a film. Like, for example, like I worked on Father of the Bride, this film with Steve Martin, and we needed a church to film a wedding in. So I have to go around in LA and I have to take pictures of all these churches and find the right church with the right look for what we need, or a house, or a store, or a park. And it's interesting, and because of that occupation, I was able to travel throughout the entire USA, which is incredible, and go to see all these little towns and places, and spend a lot of time on the road, and it's a great job. But I think that it's just being able to recognize that an opportunity is there and going for it, and being confident to know that you can learn anything. You know, like I was never somebody that was intimidated by, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do that. Like I never said that to myself. I said, okay, I'll figure that out. And I think, you know, from taking calculus in high school, you know, the whole point of that is that you don't necessarily have to know calculus, but to not be intimidated to learn something and to achieve that, you know, and to keep that in mind when you see an opportunity to make it work, you know, if that makes any sense.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's talk about a couple of films maybe in the 80s and 90s. And I guess the couple of films that come to my mind are Baby Boom and City Slickers. You did location scouting for those films.
Yes.
What were the big challenges, for instance, with Baby Boom? Do we all know that? Do we all remember that film? Should we pull that one up really quick?
No.
Okay.
No. I would love to talk about City Slickers, though, because I think the big challenge there, which is what is so great about what I do for a living, is that I had to find a place to have a stampede with 5,000 horses. So, you know, you have to go find a ranch that will allow you to gallop 5,000 horses across the, you know, terrain, and then do it again and again and again. And, you know, or I I guess in Baby Boom, I had to find the perfect house in Vermont, the picture postcard perfect house for her to move into, or on the Doors. I had to find actually places where Jim Morrison actually sang, because Oliver Stone wanted it to be in the real places, so we filmed at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The challenge there was we had to turn Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles into 1960s. So I had to get the permission from each of the store owners to change their window fronts for blocks and blocks and blocks. And that's challenging, but it's fun, and it's a great marriage, I think, of creativity and, it's right side, left side of the brain, because you have to handle the business side of it also too. There's a lot of business and administrative stuff in contracts and insurances and organizing, and a film schedule is very chaotic, because what'll happen is all of a sudden say, okay, now next Tuesday we're gonna film this instead. So it's a lot of organizing and a lot of that stuff, and dealing with the police and the city and with the community, but also too, it's creative because you're also, when I'm driving around going, oh God, that house is fantastic over there. That'd be a great exterior for Steve Martin to walk out of, or it's a fun life, and I think it's great to have short-term goals and long-term goals. And I always wanted to be a film producer, and even when I was a location scout and a location manager, I had my eyes on the prize. Like, I was always looking down the road, like, how can I advance myself? And how can I create like a momentum in my career where I can be working towards that and learning towards that? And once again, there was an opportunity that arose that I was able to, because of a very inexpensive film that was being made, to become my first job as a producer for this HBO movie. And that would be a good one for it. Should we run the show? We don't have to. No, but the point being is that I think we tend to underestimate what we think we really know in life. And I was ready to become a producer without realizing that I was ready for it. And until you do it, you don't know that you're ready for it, if that makes any sense to say that, and just by being observant for all those years as a location scout and working on these films, I was learning a lot more than I had realized that I was learning. And when I became time to run the show, I was, I felt ready for it. And touch wood, I've had some great opportunities since then. I worked on Crazy Beautiful, which was a film that was developed because all of us knew a girl in high school. There was a bunch of us together talking about this girl in high school that all of us know. Every high school is sort of the same, which is why I think high school movies always do really well, because you can walk into any high school, even after graduating 30 years ago, and you'll recognize that group is over there, and this group is over here, and this group is over here. But there's always one girl in every high school that's kind of like the wild girl. And so we all came together with our stories, and Crazy Beautiful then was sort of created based on all of our sort of experiences with this girl that was the sort of provocateur of our high school. And that was an interesting movie because at that particular point in 2000, Clinton, who had been out of office for 2 years, had ordered a report from Congress about violence in the media, sexual violence in the media, because of Columbine. And they wanted to see if there was any correlation, which I think that there is actually, that the world is more violent because of what we see in, video games and, and on TV and stuff, is that all the studio heads agreed to not make R-rated movies for teenagers anymore, which has since gone out the window. But then back in 2000, all the studio heads flew to Washington and said, okay, we will not make an R-rated movie, and Crazy Beautiful had already been filmed, but we were still cutting it, so they made us change it. It was an R movie. They made us change it from an R-rated movie to a PG-13 movie, so we can see her drunk, but we can't see her drinking. We can see them. We had to cut out all these weird things, language and stuff like that, and sort of muted the film, but I think it still works. I don't know if anybody ever saw it, but it's a film that I'm proud of.
One of Kirsten Dunst's first big films, wouldn't you say?
Yes, we can do that if you want.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Absolutely. Cool. So Crazy Beautiful, and this was what year?
This was in 2000. This is one of the first films I ever did as a producer also.
So Rick has a production credit on this film. Breakthrough film for Ricky.
Yeah. We're just going to show the trailer for a minute. this film filmed over the course of like a 10-week period, and Jay Hernandez, maybe we can lower it. Okay. Jay, we had trouble casting the lead of this movie up until like a week before, and somebody found him in an elevator with his mother, and they asked him if he wanted to be in a movie, and he was cast, and that rarely happens. But we had to tone all this down.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But then ever since Superbad,
Right.
now it's hard again.
Ever think about re-editing back into the art?
Like, there's a scene in here where he's getting licked by a dog. When the film is cut together, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go back a few months later and we'll shoot some additional scenes. And they wanted us to soften her character, so we did some filming, which I'll show you here. Just light moments of them. Anyway.
So after Crazy Beautiful,
Yeah.
which was a successful film,
Mhm.
what happened? How did you end up getting your next job? I mean,
What happened was the film did really well, and so they every studio was interested in working with this director who I was sort of producing for. His name is John Stockwell, and he was an actor. He was in Top Gun. So he directed this, and then we were offered Blue Crush by Universal, which was a girl surf movie. And the thing that's interesting is you become an expert in all these areas. And so I'm not a surfer, but you become an expert in the surf world. And we went to Hawaii for 6 months and scouted, and we cast the film and we shot it all there. And it was challenging because anytime you deal with water, there's a whole specific different set of rules and filming equipment, and there's a whole different crew. So you immerse yourself and become an expert for each particular film. It's like tailored for.
We have Blue Crush pull up. We don't have Blue Crush. Okay.
And then we went from that into the blue. We did all the sort of blue movies, which is an underwater film with Paul Walker and Jessica Alba, and we shot that in the Bahamas for 9 months, and that was very challenging. It was all underwater, so you become certified as a scuba diver, and we had to build a set underwater. There was a plane crash in the film, and there's a plane that's on the floor of the ocean, so we had to go buy an airplane in Arizona and ship it to the Bahamas and film inside of it. We also filmed sharks also, which was fun.
Let's talk about that really quickly, because I think it's so interesting with these two films, Crazy Beautiful and Into the Blue. These were films that started actors like Michelle Rodriguez and Jessica Alba and Jessica Biel. I mean, women now who are pretty much mainstream talents, really got their start with these films that you worked on, which is pretty cool.
The scenes with the sharks in this film are real. There's a place in the Bahamas where the sharks are friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of strange, isn't it?
Yes.
The fun thing too is you get to go to work in your bathing suit every day, which is good.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
That's the voice. explosions, and fights.
How long did it take to shoot this film?
It took about 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
In the same location?
Yes.
2005.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing to keep in mind is that films, which I think is the same as most businesses, there's a lot that's behind the scenes that people don't realize. I mean, you know, when you go to a restaurant, I don't think people really realize what it really takes or is involved with making the food or getting all the food there or the staff and all that stuff. And I think that a film has a lot of things that happen behind it, which is why the credits sometimes are so long. There's so many people involved, and each job is so important. Because each little cut is a different thing that's being shot at the same time, and it's very complicated when you put it all together. But it's fun. And then what I'm doing now is I just sold a film to HBO about Sharon Tate, the actress from 1969 that was murdered by Charles Manson and his family. And I've been working on that for a couple of years of research. A story about how her father, who was a military spy, went undercover to solve the murders on his own. It's a great story. And in that particular case, what I did was I contacted the Tate family and I got their permission from them to make the movie. So I get a rights agreement, and the thing that I have to do is I have to spend a couple years without getting paid of just researching and pulling together the story. And at the same time, I'm working on a few other things. So you always have a few things going at the same time, like a few irons in the fire, hoping that something's going to take. You throw it up at the ceiling, and whatever sticks to the ceiling, you know, the Velcro of it all. And that's sort of the nature of the film business. And the film business, like a lot of businesses, are, you know, is going through a like downsizing. There's a lot of discussion about how the only audience there is anymore for people that go to see movies are going to be these big action movies or action adventure movies or superhero movies or tentpole movies. And that there's no more audience for any sort of adult fare, and it's sort of true. It's kind of sad. I think because people have built their home entertainment centers, and films are not that inexpensive to go to anymore. And I think people hopefully will still always want to go see like a good movie. You know, they just have to be made cheaper. And that's what's happening. Is that the studio's trying to figure out ways to always do things cheaper. You know.
Well, Rick, what would you say on your list? What tops your list is some of your favorite films, having obviously made your life in film? What is your number one favorite film, or do you have one? Do you have several films in different genres, or?
No, there's a lot of films which I really admire. The thing for me is if I could disappear into the story, because I'm so familiar with the technique and what's involved, then I think that the film works. It would be the same, I think, as if you were like a novelist and could read a book and not be aware of the technique of it. But I'm trying to think of what's been recent. There's been nothing really that recent, I don't think. Right. But for example, like I love The Last Picture Show. I like Midnight Cowboy. I like The Wizard of Oz. You know, but you know, what else? I don't know, the simple ones. Is anybody here interested, like in movies or making movies or being involved in the film business?
We were looking at all of the most recent films shot in North Dakota, and certainly Fargo was on that list. Jesus Camp was another one that was recently shot in the western part of the state. And so for the next couple of days, we're going to scout North Dakota. We're going to hit some of the small towns and all the great locations. And we certainly welcome everybody's input on great places to visit, scenes in your mind that have been with you for however long that you've maybe thought to yourself would make a great location for a film. We want to know what those are, for sure. We're going to make the most of the trip up here. So, you know, going back to you know, the state of film, where do you see the film industry being in 10 years from now or 15 years from now? What do you think will be the biggest change in film?
I think people will watch movies on their iPhones, is what I think. You know, and you'll be able to stream them instantly, I think. You know, I think people I think are like willing to pay more if they don't have to go out anymore. That makes any sense?
Right.
So there'll be an ability to, like a Netflix or something like that instant thing will be the thing. But I think that because of that, there'll be less revenues, so they'll want to make them for less money. So we're always looking at ways to do things cheaper, which I think a lot of businesses do now.
Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the directors or the celebs that you've worked with, challenges maybe that you faced, or do you want to kind of stay a little bit away from that?
Well, I mean, I think the thing about my job, which is great, is that every day is different, and you never quite know what's going to happen. And if it's raining, then it's going to mess us up, or the clouds are coming in and out, it's going to mess us up. So you have to be adaptable, and I think that that's a good way to be anyway, is to be flexible, and to be able to keep your eye on the budget, because like I said before, it's a good marriage of right side, left side. It's a business, and you have a certain amount of money to make a certain product, and there's a lot of things which can come in the way of that. Like if an actor gets sick or something, that could have an impact on, on the day, or the scene sometimes just isn't working, and you can't quite make it work, because it's an, it's an artistic endeavor that's, it's a round, it's a round peg in a square box kind of a thing, and it doesn't really always fit. So you have to sort of make it work. And I think that like being willing to be able to think on your feet quickly and to be able to compromise, but compromise in a good way, is probably what it's about. I think. Sure. And also too, don't take it too seriously. This is what it is.
Right. So on your project with the tape film, which is how we got to know each other, I have been working with Rick now on this project for a while, and was brought in on the 40th anniversary of the Manson murders, and had kind of a dark job. Typically, I'm working in entertainment, opening a new restaurant, opening a new boutique of some kind. And when I met Rick and he told me about this project and representing Deborah Tate as a personality, Deborah Tate is Sharon Tate's sister, it became a very real, it became a passion for me to position this personality in a way that, didn't, told the truth. We want to dispel a lot of the myth that was propagated through the story over the years, and to also put a real face to the whole story, as Deborah Tate is the last remaining member of the family. But with this film, what do you see being your biggest challenges, or what are you most excited about?
Well, I think that to me, the thing that I love about a good story is that there's a universal quality to any good movie or any good book or song or anything will be able to touch everyone in the room in its own way. And to find stories where people are not necessarily the clips of the films which I've shown you, which don't necessarily, they're more action-y films, but the stories that I like are the ones where people elevate themselves in a bad situation into a situation that is better, and the Tate family, for example, no one really looks at the family of the victims and what their life is like 40 years later from a horrible event that happens to them. So that to me is fascinating. And I think it's, the fact that the Tate family has always said no for 40 years to all these people wanting to make movies about them. When I was the first one to get them to say yes, is I feel like a responsibility not only to the Tate family, but to the legacy of Sharon Tate, who died at a very young age. And it's a big responsibility to be in charge of making a film about somebody like that, because a lot of factors can come in to water it down or dilute it. HBO may want to amp up something, or may want to change something, or focus on other elements for life. And you have to work with the money people. You have to make sure that everyone's happy. I mean, that's the role of a producer, is sort of making sure that the people that are giving you the money are happy, and that the people that are going to see the movie are also happy. And there's a lot of there are a lot of choices that that a film makes every single day without the audience realizing it. Like, what is she wearing? What song is in the background? Where are we shooting this? How are we shooting this? What are they saying in the scene? What are we dramatizing versus what is really actually true? The Tate film is a little different because it's based on a true story. So there's an obligation there to convey the truth, even though you want it to be sort of dramatically interesting. So it has to kind of do both. You know, it's not a documentary. So there'll be certain choices which we make where we have to take liberty with the story and making sure that that's maybe not factual, but it's truthful. If that makes sense. And I think that that's the biggest challenge with that. But getting back to people who want to make movies, I mean, or do something creative, you know, I really think it's important that the best cinema is something where people can watch it and identify. You know, before I mentioned the like Wizard of Oz, it's like you don't have to be a farm girl from Kansas to get that movie. You know, like there's something about being lost from your home, or trying to find your dog, or you know, being misunderstood, that I think is universal underneath all of that other stuff, you know, that everyone can identify with. And that's why certain films last, you know, forever, and to create a legacy for oneself. Because I think it's a big responsibility to be involved in pop culture, because pop culture is, you're sort of putting yourself out there. And it's great to be involved, and it's great to be, you know, it's great to have my significant nieces go, "Oh God, Uncle Rick, you worked on that movie, that's so cool." You know, it's a cool thing to have that, you know, but it's a responsibility also, because you want to be involved on films that mean something, I think.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. Last question, and then maybe we'll do a little bit of Q&A, but one of the films that you worked on stars a North Dakota native, Josh Duhamel, who's from Minot, Turistas. Now that was kind of a little bit away from,
Classic.
yeah, that got a little bit away from action and more onto the horror side. What was it like making that film as opposed to the action adventure films that you'd made prior to that film?
Well, the director at that point had lost his mind.
Oh, no, there you go.
No, that was a movie that we got involved in that I myself didn't really want to get involved in. It was not a script that I really liked, and it was made for all the wrong reasons. It's sort of like everything that I was saying prior to this question was sort of erased by that movie, because that movie was made for one reason, and that was just to make money. And it was, you know, I thought it was sort of like exploitive, and I thought also too it was made at a time in our history, in our time now, when there's such a big fear to travel outside of the United States anyway. I think that it didn't do that any good, because it portrayed going to Brazil as being a very dangerous place.
Right.
You know, and I never really liked that about that.
Right.
So,
But another
Josh was a nice guy.
Josh was a nice
Yes,
guy.
he was a very nice guy. Yes, he was a very nice guy. And he lives in the end.
He does. Oh, that's good.
He's one of the few. We never kill somebody from North Dakota. We won't.
There you go. There you go. Does anybody have any questions? Let's open it up.
I hope it makes sense what he's saying.
I've got a question for Rick.
Yes.
You've got a great story here, the Sharon Tate murder, but you've got to find the right person to write the script for it to make it all flow. So
Right.
how do you go about doing something like that?
Well, what happens is HBO and I have come up with a list, like a short list of about 4 or 5 writers that we like. Like for example, the guy who wrote the Departed Scorsese film is interested. So we're talking with all those agents, but you know, it's a process, because every writer is going to make a different script. So it's a really important choice, as is the hiring of a director. Because right now there's nothing. It's just HBO and myself and the Tate family. So we hire the writer first, then they'll write the script. Maybe 6 months to a year it'll take, with us getting notes and back and forth in certain drafts, and then we'll hire like a director, and then we'll start casting. And each one of those elements adds a different spin to it, and can alter and change it. So it's a fascinating process. Because it starts with nothing. It just starts with an idea, and it just grows until it lives on its own. The Tate Project is something that I'm really interested in. Ever since I was young, I've been fascinated with this crime. Yeah.
And with the Tate Project, it's like you're developing the idea into a story that will become a movie. Can you talk a little bit about, as a producer, how often do you get the chance to do that versus being hired by somebody to produce this film for a director or produce it for a writer, or basically be the person who gets things done for all these other people that are already attached to a project?
Well, I've been all of those, because they're each different roles of a producer. There's a line producer, which is what you're talking about, the person that's in charge of the kind of like nuts and bolts of the hiring of the crew and making sure that the money's spent in a certain way. There's a producer that works with the director, who's sort of like a creative partner to the director, which is what I did on all these other movies. Also, like, I'm the person that sits at the monitor saying, I think we need a close-up of like Jessica Alba's bathing suit again, because, you know, it wasn't tight enough, you know, like, you know, so the sort of partner there. But what I'm doing now with the tape project, which is different, is I found the idea, which is a whole other thing, and then I have to sell that. So within the category of being an entrepreneur, it's always looking for that next step, that next level to keep growing, because I think it would be boring otherwise, you know. And what I'd like to continue doing is like what I'm doing now. I'm also doing a remake of a French movie from 1961 that I own the rights to also, that was shoot in Venice Beach, California. And that's a little further along. We have a script already, and we're beginning to look at actresses to star in it now. But to find the idea is, to me, the ultimate, you know, is to be able to predict the taste and the pulse of something that will be popular is, you know, is a great role to have, I think. That's what I want to do, yeah. Yes.
How do you manage with kind of a family and state where you have the families keep happy as a memory, and then, you know, dealing with polls and HBO and all the creative therapy, you know, they might want to change and tweak the story. Like, how do you manage that? What's the best way?
Well, I'll tell you when that happens. You know, no, but right now, no. It's a great question. The reason why I think that the Tate family gave me the rights, because they've been asked many times to make this film, is when they asked me that exact question, like, how do we know that what's going to be up there is going to be true? Like, we're telling you all this stuff right now. We're disclosing all these things about our family that nobody knows. How do we know that it's up there? And my answer was I said, I can't guarantee you that it will be factual. I said, but it will be truthful. So it may not be exactly what happened, but it'll be truthful to the intention of your family or the intention of your father. And what we may have to do is compress some situations, or take a few characters and make them into one character, into like a composite, or skip things, or maybe dramatize things for the purpose of the story. But I think that the family is cool with that. I mean, but I think it'll be something that I'm going to have to monitor, you know, constantly, because I predict that the Tate family will have issues with the script when it first comes out, you know, because they'll go through it, and we'll have to go through it line by line or beat by beat to make sure that it's there. But ultimately, I'm hoping that it's a trust that gets built and established there, and you know, we'll see about that. Yeah.
Relating to that, Rick, there seems to be a little bit of a trend about more documentaries, or more documentaries more told as a story. Do you see that as an ongoing trend?
I don't know how popular that is with the mainstream. That's the, you know, the thing about the industry is, I think that we have to, you know, not everyone's at a university out there, you know, and what is playing at the multiplex, to me, it's a little discouraging, because I feel like you can go to any movie theater and the same movies are playing at all movie theaters. And I wish that there was more of a desire to watch documentaries, or
I think that's my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Because my guess is there's a lot more producers who'd like to do documentaries.
yes.
But they're looking for a creative outlet for it. So do you see that marketing developing that isn't controlled by the major screens?
I don't know. You know, I don't know. Don't even a documentary is very creative. there's a lot of decisions about what's in the documentary, that's what's not in the documentary. So documentaries aren't as truthful as we think they are. But I wish that there was more of an audience for it. Does that make any sense? No, he's laughing. Anyone else? Yes.
Has there ever been a point in your career where you doubted what you were doing? And if so, how did you persevere?
I never did. I mean, I was very naive, which I think is helpful. No, I never thought how hard it was to do what I was going to do. And a lot of my friends who started out, just all my NYU friends that have graduated, we all want to be producers and directors and this and that, and very few of them are actually doing it anymore. And I just never thought, I for some reason never thought that I wouldn't, I wasn't driven to the point like I was cutthroat or something, but I just thought it would happen when it was time. And also too, if somebody asked me to bring them coffee, I know this sounds lame, but I would make sure that it was the best coffee that they ever had. Or to sweep the stage at night when everyone went home, it would be spotless. Like I always did everything 110%. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind, because I think a lot of people have a sense of entitlement. They feel, oh, like I should be a director, or I should do this, I don't want to do that, oh, I don't want to get in coffee, and that's really not the way to be out there. It's so competitive out there now. I think that, and this applies, I think, to every occupation, is that whatever you want to be doing, I mean, even when I worked in a clothing store, when I was in high school, I really worked my butt off, like making sure that everything was folded and everything was cool. To me, I just had this work ethic that was just, instilled in my, from my father working at Sears, I guess, to just like work really hard, and I think it paid off, because I think people recognize it. You don't have to sing your own, you don't have to sort of pat yourself on the back to be noticed, is what I have realized over the years. Is that if you're working really hard and like I think it's recognized.
I have another question here.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, you talked about people, the iPhone coming out and people being movies instantly. Do you think that'll change the length of movies?
Yes. Because I think that the attention span is a lot shorter now than it used to be. And I think it's true because we tried to show, my sister has like a 20-year-old son, and when she was little, The Sting was a big movie with Robert Redford, right? And she wanted her son to watch it, and it's so slow if you watch it nowadays, because our palate's been changed. Like in that movie, like they pull up in the car, they turn off the engine, they get out, they walk up to the front door. Now we like you just cut and you're inside, But I mean, in those old days, which ain't that long ago, there was a lot of shoe leather and a lot of talking that we would cut out now. But I think it's going to get shorter and shorter. And I think that the thing too is I think that TV shows have sort of taken over in a weird way, because I think that there's a lot of desire to watch an entire season, like in a sitting or two nowadays. I think that that's interesting. Or you can watch an episode and then come back to it like a few weeks later and then watch another episode. And I know when a film is more than 2 or 3 hours, people don't want to go see it anymore. They go, oh, it's too long, I don't want to see that movie. So, Gone with the Wind would never get made today.
Right.
It would never.
Another question.
Yeah.
Now, you've got a story and a plan to make the movie about Sharon Tate. When this is all incubating inside of your head there, do you actually have somebody in mind for the role, or you leave that up to someone else?
No, I have that all in mind also. But the thing about the Sharon Tate film, for instance, which was fascinating to me, is I always wanted to be, if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, I would want to be like a private eye. And that was sort of a version of that, because what I was able to do was I was able to get access into the DA's office in LA and go through all the archives of the investigation. I was able to interview all the police who were still alive, and I was able to interview people that knew Sharon Tate. And so I had to cobble together the story, and I created like an 87-page outline that I sold then to HBO of it. So, but you always have an idea of a fantasy person, and I want either Robert Downey Jr. or Sean Penn to play the father. He's a young guy in his mid-40s. And Sharon Tate would be a very small role. But I think it would be maybe like an Olivia Wilde. I don't know if anybody knows her. Would be great. And the other major role in that movie would be Deborah Tate, who was 16 at the time when it happened. She is a major part of the movie. And I like to go from True Grit to be in it. Yeah. So you have like a fantasy idea, and whether or not it comes to be, it's always good to know, because someone's going to ask me that at the studio, and I always want to be able to answer that.
As an artist and as an entrepreneur, do you have a desire to really push the bounds of what's being done in film on maybe even a larger scale than just producing great film? Are you thinking, I want to create a film that pushes a bound in some way of what people are traditionally used to seeing? Or is your focus still more on create a great story, and if it pushes some things, that's great, but my main focus is on the story?
I don't think that I'm interested in pushing the boundaries, really. Because I want to work on films that get shown in movie theater. There's a lot of films that get made that go to film festivals or that never get released or on video on demand, which is fine. And I think that there's going to be there's a market for that, but I prefer to work on more of a mainstream, if it makes sense. Like, I want them to be seen. And I think when you push the envelope, a lot of times it scares people with the money, for some reason. Where, I always feel that when something's different is when it breaks out, and it's when it makes a lot of money. Like when they make a Juno or something, a film that nobody wanted to make, and that makes money, then the next year everyone's trying to make the next Juno. Or they all follow each other. Or when Desperate Housewives first came out, everyone wanted to make the next show just like that. So it all copies each other. A show that like nobody wanted becomes a show that everyone wants. And I think that it's the knee-jerk. I think that applies to a lot of businesses also. That if how many coffee stores are there? There's a lot. After Starbucks. I think that it's a danger, I think. And for me, what I'd rather do is I'd rather make it better than it should be, but make it something that's accessible. And maybe later on do something weird, I don't know. Yeah.
Let's bring up the question, what is your relationship with the folks who fund the movie?
Always complicated. Because, it's both sides of, it's the money, which is ultimate power, versus the sort of story and sort of, it doesn't always jive up, but it's constant working at that sort of relationship, because they'll have expectations also, and they'll want things done a certain way. And I think that the trick, and I hope that this isn't going out live, is that the trick is that you want them to feel empowered also, and you want them to feel a part of the process, and you want to be a part of the process. So there's a lot of politicking involved with that. But I feel confident that, for example, with the Sharon Tate film, that HBO is really excited about it. So I think that they like the take on it, and so I think it'll probably be a harmonious marriage in that particular project.
Great. When's the right time to pitch your idea to the funding people? Early or after it's more well developed?
It's better to do it when it's more developed, because they'll want to know. They'll have 1,000 questions, and you want to always have an answer to every question. And also, too, what I do, I should have brought it, but I'll do like a presentation for it also too. But I made a book, like a big book that I show them of images of what I think the film's about, and of Sharon, and pictures from the Tate's sort of personal thing, and it sort of outlines the entire plot of the film. So it's visual, and you have to you have to be able to tell them exactly what it's going to be like, because there's so little imagination anymore. And I think a lot of that really has to do with the ability for, people read less, they have less attention spans, even at like studios. So you really have to lay it all out for them. So.
Great.
Yes.
I'm the oldest freshman at UND.
All right.
I changed careers at 80 and decided I wanted to be a filmmaker,
Right.
a short filmmaker,
Right.
3 minutes. And I took 2 courses from Chris here on creative filmmaking. And my son and my grandson and I just showed 3 films at the 4th International Conference on Digital Storytelling in Norway, on stories from North Dakota. Were very well received. My question is, there was a movement going on to have a major film festival in Ireland, with a West Fest coming up in September. What's the advantage of having a short film in a film festival that might create attention to stories that are here on the prairie?
Well, I think hopefully the film festival will attract an audience. But I think it's good. There's not much of a market for short films anyway. I don't think beyond festivals. But I think it's worth it. Where's it going to be?
It's in Ireland. It pulls in about 80,000 people. And my interest in it,
Right. Oh yeah.
my interest in it is actually in the genealogy, where you have a short 1 minute, 2 minute clip in a genealogy chart that tells the story of ancestors and descendants.
It sounds interesting. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that before we leave. If you can stick around, because I think I saw some of your stuff last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Good stuff.
It made me think of that room, Bruce, at the library today, with the
Genealogy room.
Yeah.
Or
I was.
Therapy 2.0, it's like a 3-minute little episode, and then they have one episode 1 week later, just 3 minutes. It's always 3 minutes. So it's
Right.
shorter.
Right. See, that's what you're saying about product getting shorter. Like I think it is actually. That there is that desire now. Well, good for you to make movies now. That's great. And did you have any plans to make like a full-length movie, or?
We're having some plans to do some veteran stories this summer, so that we'll talk about veterans on the prairie, and then probably show them on 11/11/11. It's kind of a movie.
Oh, great, yeah.
And have a web portal to do that.
Is there like a film school here at the school, or?
Not really.
There isn't one.
There's courses.
But you're the.
I do an intro course every semester, and every so often I do a movie production course with video equipment.
Oh, that's cool. And do you talk about films that are made already and like analyze them, or?
Well, the intro course is a general broad thing with a little of everything from technology to business to production, criticism, analysis, a little of everything.
Right.
And then the production course, the first month is developing a script, the second month is shooting it, the third month is editing.
Right. And then marketing.
Yeah. Well, then it sits on the shelf and nobody ever sees it. Like my movie, during the summer sometimes I make my own movies too.
Well, have you ever thought of having like a film festival here?
Well, we did for about 8
Red
years,
Forest.
and then nobody wrote a grant to get advertising, so we didn't do it that next year. We might try it again.
Right. Because it's never been, if you're starting out now, it's never been less expensive to make a movie with all the digital equipment now and stuff, and you could really shoot something quite inexpensively. So it's a good time. When I went to NYU, it was such a drag because we were still shooting in 16 millimeter, and you'd have to spend a few $1,000s for each of your projects. And it's, when you're a student, it's tough to scrounge up that much money. So, yeah, absolutely.
You said you're gonna look around North Dakota and scout out some locations. Do you have projects in mind for that, or will
I
the
don't.
place speak to you?
No, it speaks to me. Like, for example, I was looking at that stadium today, the old stadium. I said you could shoot like a 1920s movie in there, and nobody would ever know. So like it's just more of like a note to self kind of a thing. But when you live in LA, anything that's older than 1975 is incredibly quaint. You know, it is. And I like going to these little towns and having pie and coffee and taking photographs and stuff. And I heard that there's some really cool stuff up here.
Then you should take them to the forts because we're such a, you know, we're one of the last frontiers.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like Fort Ransom is so beautiful,
Yeah.
and Fort Totten with all that water by it now.
Yeah.
And on Totten, you can see where the bricklayers were drunk, and you know, because they hadn't been shipped this far, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And the walls just wave, and then you see where they sober up, and the walls are straight, but they're original forts because we're such a young state.
Mhm. That's a
There's a
great
lot of
one.
history in that boarding school, there's a lot of sadness there.
Yeah.
I love the light when you go to a flat place also. Just incredible sky, huge sky. And last night when we were driving in from Fargo, the sun was still up like when at like 9:30.
9:30.
Something.
Yeah.
You know, it's only April, so it's just incredible. You get some really great magic hour here.
The fort's a great one, Gail. Yes.
You're talking about getting representation. Have you ever tried to go to coffee shops at 6 o'clock in the morning till 7:30?
Well, those are the great stories, right?
Right.
They're all there, yeah. No, I'm always looking for some good stuff. You know, I'm always ears open for some good projects. Like I wanted to spend like a little time in that room, in that sort of heritage room. Yes, at the library here it has like a family heritage room where you can go look at stories and stuff. So yeah.
The fourth story level of the library, I think it's fourth or fifth, they'll take you right back to when the Native Americans were here.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And there's a lot of good stuff.
Some good scandal or something would be great.
Yeah, right. There's a little bit of that.
There is.
Oh, yeah. Does anybody have any other great locations? Aside from the small town USA kind of locations, is there anything come to mind?
There's a wonderful location in the furthest southwest corner of the state.
Okay.
Tiny little town called Rain, and in that area, Dokes Butte. There's lots of history in that area. There's a story of a doctor's wife that he would go out to all the locals' cabins and he'd be gone for 2 months at a time. She went insane and ran off to the prairies and nobody ever heard from her again. In that
She's
same
still
area.
out there.
She's still around.
I like that. It's a
In
franchise.
that same area, there's a place called Fort Dilts. There was
Okay.
a wagon train heading west, and they were deeply convinced that they were being followed by a war party. So they circled their wagons and built a fort. They literally lived in that sod fort for 2 years. There was no war party. They were completely.
They need that information. Right.
But the fort
It
is
is a
still
bad tweet.
there.
Right.
There are actually 7 people who died in that fort because of starvation. And
Wow.
all because they were paranoid.
And there's a fort, there's a castle, an Irish castle. It was built by Rollo,
Okay.
by an Irishman, and it's just beautiful. It's still there.
Okay.
It's all by rock,
Okay.
and it's really an interesting story.
Excellent.
But that's what's fun about what we do.
Sorry?
Well, old missile silos.
Yeah, that's the other. We got to kind of get a little bit into that, the history of.
But that's what's fun about it. Like I love crawling around like in the underbellies of these buildings or going to the old mill or something or the old silos and seeing how things happen. It's so great to be able to look at that stuff. And
This gentleman back here, who I believe you are related to. This is Rick.
That's my cousin actually.
Yeah.
Now I'll give you, now that it's out there, I'll throw it out since
Yes.
it's obvious. I'm one of the flight instructors here.
It is?
On the on the topic of the missile silos, there's actually a huge advanced missile base up north here near the town of Nekoma.
Okay.
And I've taken a few students over there, and it's amazing because it's pristine. I guess it was open for 4 months and we made a treaty with the Russians and had to close it down.
Really?
And it's got this huge radar building that's in the shape of a pyramid. Looks like something straight out of Egypt. So
Really?
I've always wanted to just translate right.
See, the film commission here should be on top of this stuff.
Well,
You know?
yeah, we were talking about the film commission earlier today.
We actually had an idea a couple years ago when I first met Ben. We had this idea that maybe what we would do is try to find a good story that was from the state, try to raise the money within the state to do a really inexpensive, really cool movie here.
There's a guy trying to do that, and he apparently shot it, but it hasn't been finished yet.
Right.
He's been very secretive about everything.
Right.
There's another missile site is now a museum, the State Museum in just north of Cooperstown. And they in fact had a contest for people to write a proposal for a documentary or dramatic film to get full access to the site to shoot. And this missile silo is 30 feet underground.
Wow.
Not really the silo, but the command center. They still have the computers there without the hardware in them, but it's preserved exactly the way it looked when they abandoned it in the 90s. And a lot of it looks the way they did back when I guess it went into service in the late 60s.
Well, they should try to promote that more, I would imagine. I mean, because I think that you could.
Well, they had a website for this contest, and in fact, I was going to be shooting a movie there. I couldn't get cast together in time by the deadline because you had to shoot it between November and March when they reopened to the public, and I couldn't get people to commit. You know, they're not paying them. You have to work around their schedules.
It's even when you pay them, it's hard to make commit.
Yeah, yeah. In regard to that, we're filming starting in early May, a short film there. It's called Warm Stories from a Cold War Missile Site. And it's high school kids from Northwood who are doing the film. We're interviewing 5 people who still live here, who work there, live down deep in the south.
That's great. So what did you do prior to becoming a filmmaker?
I'm a child psychotherapist.
Oh, well, it's
family
so similar.
therapist.
Yeah.
I want to just mention one other thing. I took a 5-day course just 2 weeks ago with 7 students from UND. We went all the way across the state in 5 days. They collected oral histories. And I'm getting too old to sleep on the floor, on gym mats. But it was a very interesting time. And the thing that I learned the most about it is the students were excited about the history. Really were excited. My biggest problem was getting in and out of the van.
Right. Well, that's good to hear that they're interested.
Yeah.
But it must mean that the stories still have some sort of relevance now, which I think is the key. Is to
There's
find something that,
170 museums, folk museums.
Right.
170?
170, and they're full of artifacts, great props,
Yeah.
great scenes.
Wonderful.
One great little local place, just kind of go into the brief history of Parsley is Minor Museum.
Sure.
So, I mean,
is that next to your house?
That's next to our house.
yes.
Yes.
We drove by.
I've seen it.
Bad fact.
I know, okay.
Yeah, it is.
I'll go see
We'll
it.
go there tomorrow. We'll cruise through there.
Well, how about Carl Van Nielsen? Yeah, that's great. He was a great aviator, in Manhattan, and they preserved his whole house.
Oh, really?
It's fabulous.
Okay.
And he was the first one to airplane over Alaska, and he tried to save some Russians.
Really?
So that might
We'll
be a
look at
great story.
And the year he died, they had 4,000 people here for his funeral. And it was what year, about 1920?
1934,
Wow.
I think.
And he's very famous, very famous.
Wow. Well, we certainly went down Reeves Drive and drove by all the great historic homes. And Bruce took Rick out all day today, and they got a great tour of the University of North Dakota, the city, and of course the flood at its near crest. Is it crested today? Or does that happen in the next?
It's there tomorrow.
Wow. Last question, maybe. Two more.
As a possible scenic area, we're in Devil's Lake, the highest hill in Ramsey County. If you don't know, Devil's Lake is flooding, so all the surrounding area has, lots of little pockets of water. And on the highest point, as the sun sets, you can see all those pockets like 15 miles away in all directions.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. But that's only now, right? Because of the flood?
In Devil's Lake, it's for the past 5-6 years.
Oh, right, okay.
The lake's been going up since '87.
Yeah, that's a really interesting story.
Went up 30 feet.
And that could be an interesting story too, because some decades ago, the lake was getting lower, and they were trying to get more water to attract people as a tourist attraction. And now it's raising up and it's flooding out all the homes around the lake.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's one of those things. Right?
How do you check the fire in your gut?
You do? A fire?
A fire in the lake. And it's a pretty important fire young people to develop. Can you expound on it?
I know, it's interesting that it's just sort of like loving what you do. You know, I think that that's really what the key is. And I think that in today's world, you have to pursue what you really love because there's no stability anywhere else. You know, I guess, there's not any job that I think is very stable. And because I've always freelanced and I never had a real job, I feel sorry when someone's laid off after working for a company for 20 years. For them, it's got to be a lot harder to continue or to make a go of it. And I think the key is just to really like what you do. What does everyone want to do here? Do you all want to, besides the filmmakers, what do you guys do?
Entrepreneurship.
Right. What is a business thing, or what sort of business?
Hunting products is what I'm looking at right now.
Because hunting is something that you love.
Something that I know a lot.
Correct. Well, that's good. So it's the same thing. So you're selling something you really love. Right.
Are you still doing your bed and breakfast?
No.
We're done with that. That was always an
Well, I'm
inspiration.
not done with it, but
No.
I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it, okay.
Is that the house? What
Were
you
you-
saw?
Yeah,
That house is amazing.
yeah,
That's a good location too.
yeah. Yeah, so many entrepreneurs in Grand Forks influenced me to go into business for myself, and it's a real thrill to be back here. I wish that we would have had this program up and running when I was going to college here, but it's all good. It's all good. Okay, everybody, thank you so much.
I hope that wasn't boring.
Like to thank, first of all, Rick Dallago.
Yay! Well, thank you,
So please avail yourself of coffee and conversation for as long as you like. This, of course, is open to the community. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
I don't normally
Oh,
speak in
yeah.
front of crowds, so.
Yeah,
You did good.
I did good. Okay, great.